How are you?
Not too bad, Owen.
We're talking tennis.
We are indeed.
Oh, US Open, which we were just saying beforehand, none of us really got a lot of because A, we are normal human beings who have to get up at an early hour to... and also, it was on Amazon, which if that was the only way you were going to get it here in Ireland was basically via that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was unsociable Grand Slam tournament. It was either late night or very early morning we were watching it. A lot of highlight packages back, and as you say, Amazon Prime have it, but I love the US Open, like historically speaking too, because it always reminds me like back to school time.
Yeah.
Growing up and watching when it used to be on exclusively on Sky, I think. But this was a really good tournament. But again, right, there's two stars coming from this. It's Medvedev on the men's side, Andreescu on the women's side. But there's still the same big takeaways. The big three in the men's continue their domination, and the Serena narrative continues in earnest.
Like on the Andreescu stuff, I know we've got 5 other things to look to, and she may be in there as well. Like 12 months ago, obviously, we had the Naomi Osaka situation, and we thought that this was going to be the next superstar of tennis. She may well be. She hasn't had an amazing 2018, I think it's fair, or 2019, I think it's fair to say. Osaka. Yeah. Is this going to be the same situation? Obviously, once you reach that sort of height, you are going to plateau eventually because you can't gauge everybody by Serena's standard.
You know, Andreescu is phenomenal. She's 19. She, like, to put it into context, she was born in June 2000. By that stage, Serena had already won a Grand Slam. By the time that Andreescu took up tennis at the age of 7, Serena had won 8 of her 23 Grand Slams to date. So she's only been playing the sport for 12 years. Coming into this year, 2019, she was a complete nobody. She was ranked 152 in the world. She failed to get out of the first qualifying round of last year's US Open, so she got nowhere near the main draw. But this year, she's just completely taken off. She went far in Auckland and the Mexican Open in the first 2 months of the year. But then she became pretty well known when she won Indian Wells, and she beat Angelique Kerber, who's a multiple-time Grand Slam champion. So she went from there, from Indian Wells, then to win in her local tournament in Canada. She actually beat Serena in that final, had to retire through injury. So she came into the US Open kind of an outsider. She was ranked 15th, I think, because she was getting late into tournaments at semi-final stage, not winning them, but then when she won the Indian Wells tournament and in Canada, that propelled her ranking completely. But she's totally fearless, like completely fearless. She dropped 2 sets on the way to the final, one in the 4th round, one in the quarterfinal, and then in the final, she obliterated Serena. And you're going back to the Serena narrative that I mentioned at the top of this, that's 4 Grand Slam final defeats in a row. But for me, this is about Andreescu. She is a serious contender to actually stay at the top of the game for a long time to come. With Osaka, she'll be back too. It's looking good at the women's game. The men's game is the opposite way around.
So Serena reached every final this year?
No. Her last 4 Grand Slam final defeats has been the 2 from the US Open and Wimbledon this year and last year.
Okay.
So since she's been back from the pregnancy. So she's stuck on 23 Grand Slam titles. She has the second most Grand Slam titles ever. She's one behind Margaret Court. So she's desperately chasing that to equal it. But in the 4 Grand Slam finals since she's been back, she's been beaten in straight sets in all 4 of them. And it's definitely a complete mental thing because she reached the final of this year's US Open without breaking a sweat. She won her quarter-final against Wang from China, 6-love, 6-1 in 44 minutes. She beat Alina Svitolina in the semi-final really, really easily. And then she goes into the final to Andreescu. She was 5-2 down in the second. In fairness, she did have a bit of a comeback, but Andreescu kept her nerve and served it out. Everybody was completely partisan for Serena in Flushing Meadows. It didn't matter for Andreescu. She took her apart. And Serena, in her post-match press conference, said it's not good enough anymore. She was excusing herself for the first 3 final defeats in this run, but not anymore. So that's where she is. I don't know where she goes. She's 38 now and she's 1 away from that record. And I don't know what she's going to do with that because the women's game, if you look at the last, say, 9 Grand Slam winners, it's all different.
Yeah, so then she's got a good chance to beat one of those in the final.
You would think, but she can beat anyone when she wants to, but she's not doing it. But I don't really know. Well, I don't know where she goes from here because
she's not retiring though yet. There's no sign.
She's not retiring. She's not going to retire. She gets that 24th. She gets that. She levels Margaret Court, and then she'll probably want to get to 25th to be outright the best ever. And you think she will? I mean, she's still by far the best player. She's ranked number 8 in the world, but she can beat anyone she wants to. But the player that's beating her the most is herself at the moment in these finals. But Andreescu is a complete star, total star.
In the men's, you said it's 3 years since anybody other than the big 3 have won a Grand Slam.
Stan Wawrinka 2016 US Open was the last. Djokovic won 3 of the last 4 going into the US Open. He was nailed on to win this. He had won his first 3 rounds in straight sets. Then he got to the fourth round against Stanford Wawrinka, lost the first 2 sets and retired at the start of the third. The crowd booed him because he retired. But if Djokovic hadn't been injured, he's probably going to win another.
Was he definitely injured? It wasn't just Wawrinka's beating me and I don't want to. Was he? What was wrong with him?
No, because it was the very start of the third set, so he could have easily come back. But he's a really bad shoulder problem, and he has had since Wimbledon. He's barely played since Wimbledon at all. He doesn't need to play anyway. But he was odds on to win that tournament. Like he was breezing opponents in the first 3 rounds. He would have easily won.
And how many Grand Slams does he have?
He has 16. So in the race for it to be the outright winner, you still have Federer on 20. You have Nadal now on 19. 12 of his 19 to the French Open, though. It was remarkable. And then Djokovic on 16. Djokovic is the youngest out of the 3, though, at 32. So you fancy him to continue on, actually surpass them. I think he will too.
If he does beat them, does he automatically become the best ever?
No, it's not. Like, this is completely subjective. It's who you think is the best out of the 3.
Is it not? Is it subjective, or can you not be objective and go
objective?
Who won the most Grand Slams?
Yeah, who won the most Grand Slams? But then Nadal is on course now to have won the most out of the 3, but 12 of those Grand Slams are the French Open.
Yeah, and they count.
You
get a trophy, you get the money, you get the title.
But
it's a real thing.
Federer spread it around.
I mean,
Djokovic has spread it around. I think if you take look, it's not Nadal's fault that he is the best of all time in clay by a distance.
Yeah,
but
why do you hate the French so much, Colm?
I don't hate the French. I'm just saying 12 of his Grand Slams have been the French. Do you know what I mean? Just 12 of them have been.
But is it not a case that actually Djokovic's Grand Slams are even more valuable again because he comes into a situation where Nadal and Federer are dominating the game, and he is the absolute, by definition, number 3 in the world. There is no way he's going to break that glass ceiling until he does, until he actually manages to get his game to a level where he can actually compete with Nadal and Federer. Not only that, go ahead and win, 16 Grand Slams? Yeah. That's not bad. That is greatness. That is absolute greatness.
Look, Djokovic is going to win the most by the end of it. Look, it doesn't matter. The star of this tournament is Medvedev. He's been absolute box office because he went from villain to hero in this tournament.
He gets beaten in a 5-set final.
5-set final. He was absolutely brilliant, right? In a third round, he played Feliciano Lopez, who's a veteran Spaniard, and he was winding up the crowd like no tomorrow. He snatched a towel off a ball boy, so the crowd didn't like that. Then when the crowd started booing Medvedev, he flipped them the bird. Every time he won a point, a very good point, a good rally, he would wind up the crowd like that. And then afterwards, we're going to play the clip now, afterwards in the post-match on-court interview, this is how Medvedev addressed the booing crowd.
Well, first of all, what I can say that thank you all, guys, because your energy tonight give me the win. Because if you were not here, guys, I would probably lose the match because I was so tired. I was cramping yesterday. It was so tough for me to play. So I want all of you to know, when you sleep tonight, I won because of you.
You love that. I do. You love that so much. That's fantastic.
He looks like James Madison's half-brother.
I never thought about that. But look, he came full circle because he went from villain to hero in the final because he was playing brilliant tennis. To put into perspective, he was 2 sets to love down against Nadal in the final. It was 4-all in the third. He could have completely packed it in, but he kept it going and he took it all the way to a 5th. And actually, at the start of the 5th set, he had an early break point chance. So he could have had one of the most amazing turnarounds ever. It was his first Grand Slam final. He had never been beyond the 4th round of a Grand Slam up until that point. But the crowd started loving him because he's so incredibly talented. He's 5th in the world. It's not like he's a nobody. And then afterwards, his on-court interview was very funny as far as losing Grand Slam final speeches go, because he said they were playing a special video clip for Nadal afterwards about his 19 Grand Slam victories. They were showing it on the big screen, and Nadal broke down in tears.
Right.
Medvedev was saying, if I had won, what would they have shown? Because he's absolutely nothing to show for his career so far. So he was playing into it, and
that's like the Stephen Cluxton video before the Meath game.
Well, at least it was afterwards. At least this match, you know. But like Medvedev, he was very funny. He was saying even the end of the third set, he was thinking about what he's going to say in 20 minutes' time because he's about to lose, and that's when he let the shackles off. And that this guy is incredibly talented, and he is genuinely is one of the ones who could
make the leap.
Now he might just make the leap by the time that the 3 lads retire. Like Federer's 38, like he's 38.
They really need something because...
but they got something at the US Open because Medvedev is the real deal.
I mean, we've had a lot of people emerge in the US Open who don't actually then go on to be that good over the next...
We're only taken by what he's done. So he's only 23. That's the other thing. He's had an amazing summer in hardcourt. He got the 3 finals in a row before the US Open, and he won the Cincinnati Masters as well. He beat David Goffin and in the final, and Novak Djokovic in the semi-final. So the guy is serious talent, and he got to 2 other finals before that in Washington.
How did your boy Nick Kyrgios get on? Your favourite tennis player of all time?
Well, not at all, but he absolutely wasted it. He had an unbelievable chance. He had the easiest draw. He could have got all the way to the semi-finals till he played a contender. He threw it away in the 3rd round. He lost in straight sets to Rublev from Russia.
With no temperament.
He went a bit mad. But actually, the umpire gave it back as good as he got it.
That's
the umpire.
He gets everything he deserves.
But he had it sewn up, and he won the Washington Open this summer. He had it sewn up. He could have easily got to the semi-final and he blew it.
Two last things. Did we do Osaka? We did do Osaka.
We mentioned her. Yeah, we briefly mentioned her. We didn't mention golf.
Osaka has endeared herself once more to the US Open crowd. She did last year in the final when Serena had the famous meltdown, and Osaka was very kind afterwards in the interview. But in this year's tournament, and in the 3rd round, she played Goff. Goff was in bits afterwards at the net, bawling, crying. The microphones picked it up. She said she couldn't handle it. Osaka took her over to do the post-match on-court interview with her, and Osaka was like, this one, she's a star for the future, cherish her.
Who's going to have the better career?
Osaka.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Goff she started too young. She's 15 years of age. She'll be gone by her mid-20s.
Right, that's
dressing room wall stuff.
To finish that from
the Floridian dressing room wall will have her the television in her training centre will have Colm Boohig saying, "You are going to peter out in your mid-20s."
She might do loads.
12 Grand Slams. Right, we're going to be back with the very latest sports news, talking Ireland versus Bulgaria. 13 minutes past 9 this morning here on OTB AM. We'll be back with Phil Egan after these. Thanks.